Welcome to day 9 of Theology BookMAS, and today's book is... I'm not telling you quite yet. I need to go pick up one of my boys from school, so I got to get out of the office, and I will tell you on the way. Did you see it? You didn't see it. It's a secret. I'll tell you in a minute. Let's go. How's it going, bud?
Good?
You have a good day at school?
Yeah.
Should we go home?
Yeah.
Alright, I am back in the office. I didn't want to be talking to you while I was driving because there were cops out. And when cops are looking at you, don't look at the camera. Don't make eye contact whatsoever. So I had to backtrack on that one, and we're in the office. So today's book is Spurgeon vs. Hyper-Calvinism, The Battle for Gospel Preaching by Ian Murray. I love this book, another Banner of Truth book. I love Ian Murray. His writing is great. He's probably the best modern church historian. Yeah, maybe Henry Chadwick would also be another one. So maybe you could do like Ian Murray versus Henry Chadwick, The Battle for Modern Christian History. Maybe. All right. Anyways, the reason why I love this book is, one, it's Charles Spurgeon. I love Spurgeon. He's my guy. Well, there's John Bunyan right underneath Charles Spurgeon. I think everyone tries to claim Charles Spurgeon. Like, I've even run into Pentecostals who constantly quote Charles Spurgeon, and I go like, what are you doing? He's our guy. He wasn't a Pentecostal. Yeah, you can quote him a little bit, but don't pretend. Don't pretend he's yours. He's ours, okay? All right, sorry, got a little aggressive. The reason why I love this book is Charles Spurgeon, and also because of the content. The content is about Spurgeon having this feud with his friends. A lot of people who he considered his friends. Like, people go to Spurgeon, they talk about like his feuds because he had a lot of them. They go to like the downgrade controversy, and they talk about, him battling there and depression that came from that, and maybe it led to an early grave and like all of that. But people don't talk about how he had to stand up against his friends. This was his own camp. Now, they took the line of thinking that Spurgeon had. Spurgeon was a Calvinist. There's literally no debating it. He wrote a book on Calvinism. So, like, that kind of tells you what camp he's in. But at the same time, he didn't have the same line of thinking as the hyper-Calvinists. And whenever you hold to a theological belief, there's always going to be levels to that. And some are going to take really extreme positions in regards to things that you would say, I agree with that. They would go to an extreme conclusion on that idea, and you go like, wait, I no longer agree with you on that. So this is Spurgeon battling his friends, and that has been so impactful for me over the last, I think it's only been 2 years since I read this book, but it just hit me in a place, hit me when I was going through a similar thing of battling my friends. Now, I wasn't quite doing it like Spurgeon and writing letters and having a pretty public feud, but I grew up in the IFB movement and the Reformed Baptist movement. It was like a weird Venn diagram with me at the very little tiny circle in the middle between these two camps. And so I had one foot in each one, and the last couple years I've had to change that. There have been some issues that came up of me observing others' ministry and just being like, I don't belong in this camp. So I've had to take that foot out of the IFB movement and put both feet into the Reformed Baptist camp, because I've had somewhat of a little bit of a theological shift. Not much, but enough for me to be able to be like, yeah, I don't belong over here. And so I've had to have some pretty hard conversations, had to take some pretty harsh actions of saying this, I don't belong in this part anymore. And if you belong there, go for it. You know, like, I'm not here to say which camp you should belong to, but for me, I have a lot of issues with that line of thinking, and still I have friends there. And so reading how Spurgeon dealt with his friends, and in a much more tender, more gracious way than how he dealt with people in the downgrade controversy, this has really helped me to be able to tackle my recent changes. And so I really appreciate this book. There's one section in here that really I always go back to, where he's talking about hyper-Calvinism, and from his viewpoint, this flawed theological framework, and saying that some men are able to rise above their flawed systems. And like, just speaking to the character of some of these hyper-Calvinists, that he was still going to be okay with some of them because they were such good gospel men that they were able to, like, somehow, even though they held to these beliefs, or at least said they did, they were able to, like, rise above it. And I always go back to that when I think of some of my friends and how they were able to rise above, at least, again, from my perspective, not saying it's for everybody, but a flawed theological framework. And so I always go back to that. I'm constantly thinking about that. Just that little nugget alone has been, like, so helpful for me, and how to interact with my friends when I disagree. And so maybe you have some theological disagreements with some of your friends. I'd encourage you to pick up this book, read it, and apply some of the principles. Now, Spurgeon ain't perfect. There's some times when he gets really harsh, but just overall how he deals with these guys in comparison to the downgrade controversy stuff, it's a big difference. And I think there should be a big difference for us too when we're dealing with our friends, and maybe some theological differences. And when I say friends, not just friends that we have, but people who we have been, like, partnered together in ministry. So that's today's book. Tomorrow I'll be back with another one. Also, in a couple hours, I'll be dropping another Marking Up the Word video looking at Romans 3. So watch that. It's pretty good. I like it. It's maybe my favorite thing that I've been doing over the last couple years. So be on the lookout for that, and I'll see you tomorrow.